So, welcome back to Mr. Glover's Kitchen. Now, you might notice two things different. First of all, the haircut, but second of all, the fact that I didn't send out any ingredients to you. Now, this is because what I'm going to do today is show you how to make a nice healthy meal. Talking about how to cook veg, how to cook meat, etc. To fit in with everything we've been talking about in terms of a good balanced diet. So we've made pizza pinwheels, we've made gluten-free pizza, dairy-free cookies, all looking at intolerances and allergies, etc. Well, today we're actually looking at just a healthy, balanced diet meal and how to cook it and how to prepare it. So there's no ingredients. I mean, you can make the same meal as me if you wish, that's completely up to you, or you can make your own. And I'd love to see what you guys do. I tweet it out, send it to Monday Mentions, and obviously you get Rushy rewards for engagement. So looking forward to seeing what you guys can produce. So I'm going to be making like this sausage casserole dish. Now, what you can see is I'm going to be using sausages here, okay, and then bacon here. Now, first of all, if you look at the sausages that I'm using, they are actually very good for you. So they're beef sausages as opposed to pork, but the fat content is actually in the amber as opposed to the red for the saturates with bacon here. So I always try and use the better ingredients, if you will, and the healthier options. But when it comes to cooking meat, there's a few different ways of doing it. Now, first of all, I could fry the meat. The problem is you're cooking it in fat, okay? Now, I am actually going to fry the bacon, but what I'm going to use is coconut oil to do it. Now, I'm going to use coconut oil because coconut oil is the healthiest of oils to use. Okay, I could use sunflower oil, vegetable oil, olive oil, etc. But coconut oil is the much healthier option. So I'm going to use that, okay, to try and make the bacon a lot healthier. But with the sausages, I've got a few different ways I could do it. Now, I could fry them. But the problem is you're not only keeping all the fat inside them, but you're actually adding more when you fry it. The next two options are here, okay? Now, what I could do is I could use the oven, okay? Now, the oven is one option that might work, all right? But again, you have to put it in an oven dish, and although the fat comes out, you're still then cooking it in the fat. A better option to use is the grill, okay? So I'm gonna set my grill up here, and actually when you're grilling meat, you're allowing the fat to drip down and go away from the meat. So actually removing it in the first place. The best method for cooking is actually on a barbecue. Now, sadly, the day is not quite good enough. It has been raining. I was hoping to get a barbecue set up for you, but we're going to go for the grilling option instead, to grill these sausages and remove the fat from them to make them nice and healthy. Now, when it comes to preparing my bacon, what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to chop it into small pieces, but all this fat that you can see around here, I'm actually going to cut off and throw it away. All right, so I'm actually making this even healthier by removing most of the fat. So it will be a lot leaner meat that I end up cooking. So I'm acknowledging that I'm going to have to fry it using my coconut oil, but actually by removing the fat, I'm making this dish a lot healthier. Now, the less oil you use, the better, okay? You only want to use a little bit of oil. That's why you often have the spray oils like Frylight, for example, advertising how healthy they are because they're trying to reduce the amount of oil that you use. But with this coconut oil, I'm going to need to melt it. So I'm going to turn my pan on, let that get hot, and once the oil is ready, I can then put the bacon in. So my bacon is chopped up and ready to go. Now you'll hear I've put the extractor fan on, and that's because whenever you're grilling, you do get a lot of smoke as the fat that comes off the meat starts cooking. So it's really important to get rid of that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to add my seasoning. So I'm using some smoked paprika here. Okay, just to season this a little bit, add a bit of extra flavour to it. I personally like adding as well a little bit of a garlic seasoning. I know this says chicken on it, but it can be used for anything. And then when you're frying something, what's really important that I think to do is to keep turning it regularly. So I'm going to constantly mix this up, try and get all the flavours into all of the meat. Now pork is a really good meat for absorbing flavour, okay? So what you'll find that a lot of this will really start tasting of that garlic and that paprika. Now what's really important to note is that I'm going to add a sauce to this and I'm going to put it in the pan. Now a lot of people like to drain the pan afterwards, okay? So take the meat out, drain the pan of any fat, and that is a healthier way of doing it. But what I find because I've used a healthier oil and because I've cut the fat off the bacon, I actually want this little bit of fat in there because the flavour that's then in it, when it gets into the sauce, is really going to add to the dish. Now, it is important that we acknowledge that we need to have some fats. We shouldn't try and cut them out completely. We do need some fats, but we need to monitor exactly how much fat we're having. So we're on to the rice stage of my dish. Now I like using brown rice, okay? I prefer brown rice because it is healthier. It's a very simple and basic carbohydrate, so it's very easy to digest and to eat. Now, I'm 6'2", and I do exercise quite regularly, so for me, a portion is usually about 80 grams, okay? But that's for one portion for me. For you lot, it would be possibly a little bit less, okay? But I'm gonna measure out my 80 grams here, like so. Now, the golden rule is that you add double the amount of boiling water. So I'd put my kettle on and add 160 grams of boiling water. Now I've noticed that brown basmati rice takes a little bit more. But what I'm going to do is to add a bit of flavour to this rice. I actually like adding a stock cube. So this is just a chicken stock cube, okay? Very, very nutritious, okay? Not unhealthy at all. And that just adds a little bit of flavour to the rice. So I've just added my boiling water. Now just to make sure the stock cube gets into the rice and that flavour gets into the rice, I just mix it round first, like so. Now what's really important is that I get the lid on, okay? Get the lid on and maintain that heat. Now I'm going to put it onto the hob to boil. I'm going to bring it to boil and then I'm going to turn it down. So at the moment you can see it's on quite high. I'm going to turn it down and leave it to cook for about 20 minutes. So my sausages are done. They're now grilled and ready, and I mean you can just see how much fat came off them, okay, how much dripped down from them. There's loads. So you can see why grilling is a really, really good way of cooking the sausages. What that was my rice having boiled. So I've now turned the hob down, okay. I'm going to lift it off slightly and then put it back on and just leave that now. 20 minutes, that should be done. The bacon is done. You can actually see when bacon is done because it starts looking quite wrinkly, okay, like wrinkly skin. Now the good thing with sausages, these being beef sausages, is beef is very different. When people eat beef, you can eat it when it's not quite cooked. If you order a steak in a restaurant, they have options of well done, which is cooked so it's brown all the way through, medium, so it's actually a little bit pink inside, but then you can start going for rare. Now rare is when it's warm inside, so the bacteria is dead, but the meat hasn't gone that tougher brown, okay, and some people quite like that. Always, 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 whenever you're preparing meat, make sure it is warm inside so you know it's cooked all the way through. So what I've done now is I've actually put a little bit of tomato puree paste in. Now tomato puree paste, as I can show you now, okay, tomato puree paste, double concentrated, very good for you, and adding some of my fruits and veg into my diet. but it's a very strong taste. So you don't need a lot, only a little squirt. Now, for the gluten-free pizza, you needed passata. And I'm actually gonna use the rest of that now to create my tomato sauce. Okay, now I would like to point out what I'm cooking here will not be eaten all at once. This is gonna get me through at least 2 meals, okay? But thinking about what ingredients I've got, knowing that I only used a little bit for the gluten-free pizza, I can now reuse that to make this nice tomato sauce here. Now I'm going to put this back on the pan, but in a lower heat, and just heat that up and let all the flavors from the bacon and the sausages get into the sauce, and that will take care of itself. My rice is cooking nicely. It is boiling inside, okay, as you can see, just here, and that's still got a bit of time left. There's one thing missing from my dish, and that is my veg. So let's talk about that. Now, I'm choosing to use broccoli as my veg. Now, not a lot of people eat this, okay, the stalk of the broccoli. You can, there's nothing wrong with it. You could slice it up, chop it up into small bits, and you could eat it. It's perfectly healthy to do so, okay, because we eat it on here. But a lot of people tend to focus on the top and not eat this. So it's up to you. Could dice it up into small pieces and do, but we're going to focus more on here. Now, there's a couple of options with cooking veg. I could cook it in exactly the same way as I'm cooking the rice. However, the problem is, if you cook it in the water, a lot of the nutrients, a lot of the vitamins and minerals then go into the water. Now, some people will drink that water afterwards to make sure they get it, which is fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook it in the healthiest way, which is to steam it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put boiling water in the bottom here, put it on the hob, and then put the broccoli actually in this top container here. So I've got one I've already cut to size, put that in there, and then let the steam coming off from the boiling water cook the broccoli. You lose some of the nutrients in here, but not a lot. And steaming veg helps it keep most of its nutrients. So making sure it's going to be really useful for your body. So my boiling water has gone into my steamer. I'm going to put this onto the hob here. My broccoli has been cut into smaller pieces. Put the lid on like so. And now using the steam you're seeing coming off this, place that on top, and that's now going to cook the broccoli so it's nice and nutritious. My rice is still going. My timer of 20 minutes hasn't gone off yet, so I'm not going to touch that, not going to take the lid off that. My sauce is ready. Okay, I'm letting that cool a little bit, and what I'll do is once the broccoli and rice are done, I'll pop this back on the hob for a minute or two, just to let that heat back up again, and then hopefully my dish will be ready. So, dish complete, okay? Now, as you can see, this looks exactly like the Eat Well guide should do. So, we have a third of the plate being the carbohydrates, a third being the veg, and then we have our meat, protein, fats all in here, and then obviously we've got a little bit more veg in terms of the tomato puree. So, as you can see, I didn't use it all. I wasn't being a pig. But that is my meal. Looks okay, tastes good, I know that. Let's see what you guys can do, okay? So, over to you. So, time for me to go and eat my food that I've just prepared here. Now, as I said, over to you. What I would like you guys to do is to try and prepare yourself a healthy, balanced diet meal. And as I said, please send me your pictures. I love seeing the food that you make. Email it to me, and I tweet out those that are the best at Mr. AJ Glover, okay? Hope you're keeping safe. This is the last practical lesson. I will speak to you in the theory lesson that follows. But stay safe, okay? Have an amazing summer holiday, and hopefully I'll see you all after the summer holidays. Okay, take care.